Hello, friends, and welcome to the Cinemondo podcast. We have a guest.
It's great to see Nyasha Hatendi back. We had him on a few years ago in person. I think he was our last in-studio guest. Studio meaning Burke's house. Until and when the proverbial, hit the fan. And so it's great a couple years later to see you again, and great to chat a little bit about what's going on with you.
Yeah, it's good to see you guys. It's I know the world has changed like profoundly since we last chatted about our casual chats about movies and freaking puka.
Right.
We talk about a horror. I mean, now we're living in it, right?
Yeah, it's
so weird, isn't it?
And I think when we met, I think there was the inklings it was on the horizon somewhere. Maybe it was happening over in Italy or Europe, and we sort of maybe just had a taste of, hey, this might turn into something. So I think we were a little, maybe apprehensive, too much of a word, too stressed of a word, but I think we just felt like, hey, something's coming. But I didn't think it was going to be like this,
Were we already doing like elbow handshakes at that point, or fist bumps?
I don't think so.
I don't think we got to that point. No, we were. I think we were completely unawares that we were about to sort of enter some kind of like weird, physical, dynamic with each other. It was before we'd sort of,
so weird
fallen into that.
And work really changed, and like you, because you're an actor and director, and it changed a lot, the process of making films. Like when did that sort of start hitting home for you? When that starts, all the pandemic protocols started going.
Right.
Well, that's really interesting. It's kind of so weird. It feels like so long ago. It was like 2 years ago.
Yeah.
It feels like 10 years ago now. And actually, all those COVID protocols now, they feel normal. It's like, of course, that's the way it is. I think, what was I doing? The first job that I did, the job I was doing, a job called Made for Love on HBO Max. And I was doing a guest appearance. I was shooting over 3 weeks, and it was literally, I had finished filming on the Friday and was on the bus with a crew, and we were all heading back at the end of the day. And then one of the crew members had said, it's so weird. My daughter, she's just had this weird fever. She feels a little ill. I don't know what it is, and I've had a little temperature, and we're all like, "Oh, don't worry," patting her on the shoulder. Like, "Oh, what a bummer!"
Jeez.
And then we got a call that Sunday to say we've had to shut down. We don't come back to work. We'd been hit, and that's when it suddenly hit home. And that was the first moment it happened. So it was in the middle, and I had also just got Swan Song. Funnily enough, it was like it was just before. Actually, no, I hadn't got Swan Song yet. I got Swan Song a couple months later when we picked up again.
Wow, that's so long ago.
It was so long ago. It really was. And anyway, that's when it all shut down. Everything went down for weeks. Everybody thought it was the end of the world. Every show shut down.
Right.
Sick, and then when they asked us to come back, it was this, you have to put this thing up your nose every time. You have to do that on a regular basis, at least, 10 times a week. You have to be distanced all the time. You have to be, and I think there are all these rules in place. You have to go through all this education to ensure that you are aware of what the protocols are, which, is great. And ironically, what it does, it makes you a lot more conscious of the people that you're working with. You actually be like very attuned to where they are, what they're doing, how they're feeling, etc. Which I think has actually been ironically quite a good thing. It's just, it really has honed us in and made us, in some instances at least, be more concerned for each other than ourselves. And that has been interesting as far as not just the actual process of filming and stuff, but also the work itself is kind of, I think, might have shifted.
Yeah, it did shift. I worked on that thing called Songbird that Michael Bay produced. That was supposedly the first, pandemic film production, and it was a weird thing because everything was shut down, and he decided let's make something within the boundaries of all the protocols, and it's a movie about the pandemic. So there were a lot of people who were wearing, full, was it PPEs and everything?
Just
And
build it into into
it was built
movie.
into the story, and the story is actually about the COVID crisis, like 5 years down the line after everybody's almost dead. It's a post-apocalyptic kind of a story,
Wow, right.
which is pretty interesting. It wasn't. Well, I'm not going to say too much about it, but it was.
It's not his film. We don't need to give Michael Bay any.
Well,
but it was an interesting experience. Like you said, it was unlike any other project that I've ever worked on. I wasn't in contact with anyone. I worked completely from home.
Yeah.
And everybody who was on set was telling me how awful it was and how, like it's like making a movie on Mars.
Yeah.
Is it weird for you, like, as being in front of the camera when you're, because I've been on a bunch of photo shoots and stuff like that, and the same thing behind the camera, everybody's in masks, shields, the whole thing. Is it weird as an actor to have to separate from that in front of the camera and like, or is it now, you said, just become normal, so it's just normal to see all these masked people around you and just a little fear in the background of COVID being around the corner, or have you been able to get around?
Why is everybody wearing masks and we're not?
I know, exactly.
But they want us to kiss right now.
Because you're in front of the camera, you're acting like COVID doesn't exist. Like no one's wearing masks. It's like normal world. So it's kind of an interesting disconnect.
It is, and I imagine somewhat of a relief actually, because you do feel safe enough not to have to take those precautions, and you know that everybody around you has taken all those precautions, and the masks are just an extra precaution on top of it. So you actually do feel very, very, very safe as long as you're working with people are being careful as well.
Right? Then
you do feel safe, but there's been a lot of instances, unfortunately, where that isn't the case, and then that question mark makes it harder to actually trust.
Calls going, we shut down for 2 weeks. It's like,
yeah, I know, and you just don't want to be responsible for that.
Of course,
you don't want to be the one who is the reason why people have to, shut down for 2 weeks and delay their pay and then have to stay away from their families for longer. And it's just the responsibility of messing things up for everyone is actually more of a incentive to sort of take care than actually COVID in a way.
Yeah, that's true.
So you went back to Made for Love after. You went to finish Made for Love after. Okay, gotcha. So you saw the pre and post and the same shoot. Yeah, interesting.
In the same show. Yeah.
Interesting.
Well, that was an interesting thing on a lot of the shows that I worked on was how to address it. How do you address it within the context of the show? Like a lot of the shows I work on are episodic types of things, and the big thing at first was like, well, we have to have an episode about COVID. Everybody has to be wearing masks, and it has to be a COVID show. Like everybody's talking on Zoom calls and everything. But then it got to the point where I think some shows did maybe one episode like that, and then it was just like, let's not do that. Let's make all the shows. It'll date it, and it's also depressing. People want to see the world.
Yeah.
So now all the TV shows that you're seeing that were produced during the pandemic are done as though it didn't exist, which is kind of bizarre.
That's that weird sort of like dissonance, cognitive dissonance, which always very good at. It's funny, I was watching Station 11.
I'm watching that too. What do you think? I mean,
I really loved it. I loved it. I kind of, there were moments where I was like, it's just a bit weird. But then generally I was like, I really enjoy, and actually the fact that it was about this pandemic, I think that it was also about making art, and how you make art, and how that's like intrinsic to our nature. Storytelling is what is the thing that keeps us going and keeps us alive. And there was something really beautiful about that.
Beautiful. There's 99% of the world is eliminated by this horrible flu, which doesn't incubate at all. So the people that are left over, there's a traveling group. They call it the Traveling Symphony, I think. And it's just they're doing Shakespeare and they're making art. But I think the early stuff where it's starting to hit and people starting to find out, that is chilling stuff. Really like, wow. But it's beautifully done. It's a great series. And
it's so beautiful. Some really beautiful performances in there as well. And I think Patrick Somerville, ironically, had worked on Made for Love before that. So really interesting. It had some other iteration he I think for some reason he stopped working on it, and then maybe went on to work on that. So it was kind of really interesting to sort of tie the dots and see who this creator was and what he was going for, and how that was different from show to show. It was really rewarding experience, I think.
Yeah.
It is
It has
interesting
been
because
impressive to see people pivot, like creative people.
Yeah.
Like whether it was like, if you're not in production, hey, let's work on scripts, or let's work on something, smaller. And, I love that it wasn't just we're shutting down, we're done. It was like, okay, how do we get around this? How are we going to make this work?
Yeah.
And people got to go back to work and still be creative, which is
and
great.
a lot of people got to have that time, with your own creative people who make things by themselves had a lot of time to make things by themselves, to do.
Did you work on anything like scripts or anything while you were?
Yeah, I did. I sold a narrative podcast that I'm developing at the moment,
nice.
which is exciting.
What's that called? Or can you say?
Ooh,
it's not out there yet. Okay.
No, it's not out there yet.
Okay, we'll wait.
Keep it. Hold on to it.
I'm going to hold on to that one.
Let us know when you can.
Yeah, when we next time, if we do chat again, we
will.
They haven't been destroyed by a comet or something.
Yeah,
that'd be awesome.
Not be awesome.
You coming back would be awesome to talk about a podcast.
Oh, all right. Not like a don't look.
Not like bye guys.
Yeah, not a comment.
So great.
Cool. That's good to know. Thank you. It's I'm in the middle of writing. It's an 8-episode thing, and I've written about 4 episodes so far. And it was an idea that I had about set in Africa, because I'm Zimbabwean, and so I wanted to tell a story that was based in that world. And,
nice.
It's coming along well. It's we hope that it goes from podcast to TV to, from podcast to a TV series. It's the idea.
Oh, exciting!
Oh, that's really good.
That's great.
It's good, and that occupied me a lot, and I was very, very lucky for that to actually come into play and actually get a little bit of money to sort of work on that. Which
cool,
great. I love that. I've been to Africa a bunch of times. I love it. It's my favorite place to go. I've been to Zimbabwe. I've been to Kenya. I've been to Rwanda. I've been to Tanzania. I've been to a bunch of places, but a lot of it's to see the wildlife. But the people are so great. I just love it. I love just getting to know people there. It's just, I never get sick of it. And when you come back, you just feel different. It's just an incredibly beautiful place.
I know. It's one of those things where I'm like, if you had a bucket list, that's one of the things I'd say you had to do is like go to
Africa.
Just get into that, have that experience. And it does change you, I think.
It does. It is a really, really great place. I loved it. We did guerrilla trekking, and that was just, I loved it because you're not like in a Jeep, separated from everything. You're like down in it. You get to walk through the towns, you get to meet the people, you get to climb these mountains, and you get to be on the ground with, the rangers, who are so unbelievable people. And we're starting to get more female rangers, which I love. Like we started seeing that happening. It's fantastic. So I'm very interested in your podcast.
Yeah, so cool. That's one of the things we did. I actually took my wife Jessica there before the pandemic, obviously, and I proposed to her out in the bush.
Oh, nice!
Wow.
Oh my God, it'd be so romantic.
It was lovely, and like the time, she had never been there before, so it was wonderful to see her react to the environment, the people, all of those things, that to see her react to it for the first time. And one of the really cool things that happened was the place that we went was Gonere Zoo, and it's a game park on the border of Zimbabwe and Mozambique. And one of the things that they have which is this great story about these the sort of anti-poaching units. And one of them is an all-female anti-poaching unit.
I think I've read about them.
Have you read it? There's been I think there's a documentary out there somewhere. It's a really interesting thing. They've been trained by some dude from the SAS. They're actually some of the best anti-poaching.
This is a script writing itself.
I know, right?
I really cannot wait to see that version. I mean, maybe we should like sort of do this now.
Let's just write that script right now.
Let's have a
I'm
meeting
ready.
right now.
It's really, really
Concept
cool.
meeting right here.
All the
That'd be
men
amazing.
and things have passed away. They've all they're sort of really unable to provide, and so it's the women who have to go out and take these really dangerous jobs.
Yes.
Yeah.
And turns out that they're actually better at it than any other anti-poaching unit that's
amazing.
been before. It's just this really weird phenomenon. And
Wow.
That's
weird,
so
but
cool.
it's really interesting. Yeah. It's
That's
Yeah.
very interesting. Yeah, poaching is awful. It's a
Yeah.
bad
really- yeah.
It's just
I
bad.
know.
Yeah. But yeah, it's an incredible place. Lots of rich stories. I never get sick of it.
And it's
Yeah.
always good to see an entertainment based in a place that's not Los Angeles or New
Right.
York or something. It's like we've been lately on the podcast. We've been watching a lot more international films. We've been watching films from India, and it really does take you when you get into it. You get away from these LA films that we watch so much.
Yeah.
It's a different experience. You're getting to know, and also you just to go. It's not just Bollywood or India cinema. There's
Right.
15 different film industries with all these different languages,
Yeah.
and so you're getting into this culture that you know nothing about. Where these sort of ignorant Americans thinking an Indian film is one
It's
thing.
always going to be this
Yeah.
one thing.
Yeah.
But it's just so much. It's so multicultural and so interesting, and it's just fun to kind of open up a new door to cinema for us.
Yeah.
And, we're just
Yeah.
trying to get more world cinema, expressive as opposed to just focusing on stuff that's produced here.
The same way that travel itself is important, and if I think that's the thing that Americans are so bad at is travel, experience in the world
Outside of America, yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
how many people in America have passports compared to how many people in Europe have passports and other countries have, and that is really the experience of your life, is seeing the planet, seeing the world. Movies can do that to an extent, That's one of the things we love about movies.
Yeah, I know, right? That's the thing. It gives us access to things that we otherwise wouldn't have had in our normal life.
Well, I'd love to talk about some of the stuff you've been like. I wanted to mention. You mentioned Swan Song, which is currently, on Apple Plus, and it's got. I mean, what a cast to work.
Yeah,
with.
beautiful.
Marshall Ali, Naomi Harris, Glenn Close, Aquafina, yourself. How was that experience?
It was very weird.
Because it was the pandemic, and it was a pandemic full on.
That was full on pandemic. But it was a wonderful experience as well. It was every so often a script comes along that you really just I think I told you guys about this last time. It's like sometimes you have like this emotional sort of thing, and there's resonance, and this was one of those, and it's kind of weird. It pops up out of nowhere, and I was in tears after the first reading. It's a lot to do with loss and and hope.
It
Love.
was really sad.
In a really sort of profound way. So I loved it. And then, of course, there was the pandemic. So in order to do it, I had to go away to Vancouver. Would have to be in Vancouver for circa 2.5 months, I think.
Wow.
And I couldn't come back. So there was that, and then there was the fact that my wife was pregnant, and in the first.
Oh gosh.
Wow.
So, so there were a whole load of different sort of competing, pressures and sort of concerns that sort of arose, but also just this real sense that I needed to do it because I just loved it. And when do you get the chance to work alongside that caliber of performer? I convinced myself that it was for the kids.
I have to do this.
I got to do it. I mean, one day this is a career maker, and so what we always do. When that next big shiny thing comes along, you're like, this is going to define.
This is going to be it.
I worked with Mahershala on a TV series years ago, and got to spend some time with him back. When he was just a guy on the TV series. Now he's this huge star.
Yeah.
And just a super, super guy, like a good person. And I always feel like when I work with some people who are just really cool, and then I love seeing them, succeed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's one of them, and he's doing it.
Yeah, he really is. He is very much a a leader in that respect.
Yeah.
He's kind of it's funny because when Sidney Poitier passed away the other day, and somebody was saying, well, who was the greatest film star of all time, and somebody said, oh, it's Sidney Poitier, and because nobody had to convince America to accept somebody like him in the way that he did, on top of being sort of like this
at
great
time. Yeah.
at that time.
Yeah, especially
Yeah. And I do feel Mahershala is kind of burdened with the same task, because we're in a different era now, and there's a different understanding of what it means to be black in America, in the world. And I think one of the things that was really appealing about Swan Song, which we discussed, was that it was a film that the entire cast was black, but it wasn't the issue. It wasn't made into the issue. It was just that we were experiencing the lives of these people, which were complex and interesting and real and profound, and profoundly and interestingly realized as anyone else. And in particular, what was so exciting was that they were so extensively realized in a way that if you're a black person in this industry, unfortunately, too often you don't get to play characters with that depth.
Right.
And Mahershala, I have to tap my hat to him. He's always chosen characters that have depth, that are often sometimes conflicting. It's I remember watching Green Book and being a little. I remember getting angry and upset with him. Actually, I was like, "What were you doing? Why were you? Can't you see that this is But then at the same time, I was like, "Oh, but I understand who you are and what you're trying to do in this business, and actually, it's something very profound. And it's a huge risk to have taken, and there's something really."
I agree.
Yeah.
And this film, I mean, I won't give away too much of it if you haven't seen it, but it is about him. He's terminally ill, and he decides to get himself cloned. This is in the future, and your character, you play Naomi Harris's twin brother, and it's your character is the reason the movie is there, in essence. I mean, don't you think? I mean, it's like, without going into what happens, it's a very important part. And I just think he's playing, at the end, he's playing two different characters, and they're very different characters. No, obviously he's the same actor. So it was just a beautiful performance, and everybody's great in this film. I mean, everybody. It's like, it was just, I thought it was a very profound film too, because it's a very quiet movie. It's taking place mostly in this beautiful sort of, I thought, oh, this looks like British Columbia to me, and it's some beautiful, mid-century modern kind of palace house, and it's just very, very quiet and staid, but also filled with a lot of emotion and tragedy. And so everybody works. It's a film well worth seeing.
Yeah. Oh, good. I'm so glad you enjoyed it. It's funny. I think everybody, when they read that script, you should read the script if you get a chance. I think they're online these days. Like, you can go Deadline, and
that probably would be good to read.
Yeah, you just do a search for the film title, PDF.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And then that's it.
That's all. There it is. That's really fun.
It's cool. It's cool. I'm so glad you guys enjoyed it, and I think everybody on in the cast felt the same thing, and everybody working on the film, I think, felt the same way about it. And it's great that that's what's coming across.
Right. Oh, definitely there. And I watched your short film from a few years ago, Moving On, which I really liked. Yeah. And are you doing more? Are you thinking? I know you get this podcast going. Are you thinking, I'd like to get behind the camera and actually direct more stuff, even if it's short or a longer thing?
Yeah, definitely. It's I really enjoyed directing, and it was really because I was working with performers and actors, and I was talking to a good actor friend of mine who happens to be a very well-known actress, who was saying, and has been doing this for a while, and said that she was really keen to work with directors who had been actors before, because there was certain language that they understood, which she felt safe with, and she really understood, and she wants to sort of engage with that. And
absolutely.
And that's what I find most exciting about it, what excited about doing the short was actually just directing the performances. It was it was really, really good fun to understand the language of actors and sort of give them and enable them to sort of reach depths that, you know, they hadn't seen, or have exciting discoveries that they hadn't seen. And for me, that was really the main.
And we see a lot more of that. I mean, obviously there's the George Clooney's of the world, but even going to Station 11, Helen Shaver is a former actress who directed a lot of the episodes, you know, and Bryce Dallas Howard doing the Boba Fett stuff in the Star Wars. So it's, and it's just great to see that, you know, so it's a future.
It's always an interesting experience. I've had that feeling too, working with directors, the ones who understand what the other departments do. And how things appear on the set. It's not just, you know, magic. There's a lot of work involved in every department, and the acting, I think a lot of people, this always sounds weird when I say it, but I think you know what I mean. There's a lot of people think acting is easy or just fun. You just go out there and pretend and play make-believe. But there's so much to it that people don't realize. Like if you throw the average person on a set and say, okay, now you've got to act, you've got to be this character for an entire episode, and you have to be consistent, you have to get this and this and it's not easy. And I've been on many, many sets for many, many decades, and I've developed, you know, I've developed it pretty quickly, a respect for what actors do. And it's a thing that I think is so important for directors to know what goes into acting. And I've worked with some directors who don't seem to understand that. And they are not the beloved directors.
It's so weird. It's like, and you're right, it's such a collaborative medium that in a way to really get the most out of it, the more you know about what others are doing, and the more interested you are in how they sort of realize their best potentials, then it all the more cohesive it feels, and the more that you're able to play off them, and the more you're able to it's just so much more fun, I think, when you're in that headspace rather than in the sort of like, do what I tell you to do and do it this way, you know. You can't
make
do
this happen. I don't care how you do it, just make it happen. I don't know where it comes from, but I want to see that on the set right now.
Magical. Right.
I know, very unartistic.
So how do you go about choosing which projects to get involved with? Like, is it something that just sort of happens innately? Like you would you read it and emotionally want to do it, or is it just like, this seems fun, I'll do it? Like, what is the attachment to some scripts over others?
I'm Kathy, I'm not that good an actor to
You just take whatever comes along.
I'll just do it. Whenever somebody says, hey, please, would you come along? Or like, oh yeah, great, come along. Whenever somebody asks me, I'll want to do it. That's how I choose my work.
but look at
that makes you a good actor, though. You could do anything.
I mean,
was it a challenge then? Maybe.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like, you know, I mean, I you know, being facetious, I guess, but I do I do say no to a lot of stuff now that I don't think it's fully realized, or can't find an emotional connection to it. It's just easier when you have that. It's just like, it just means that you're not having to, you're able to come from a place of belief and understanding, and so your confidence is better when you go into the room. You know that, you know, I know how to deliver this, and usually those are the roles that I get anyway, because you know, there's so many of us out there going for stuff, and when it clicks, it really clicks. And you know, that's you know, why you have to take your hat off to casting directors, because the more I go through it, I would resent them for being like, why are you not? I mean, there are some, and there has been instances where there's like, why is this opportunity not available to me when it's available to them, as it were? There's things that you could obviously execute on that, you know, you don't get the opportunity to do. But more and more, what happens is, you know, when the phone rings, it's because they think that it's something that I can do, and so. Usually I go into it thinking, oh, well, okay, there must be some reason why. And then I try more and more not to try and give people what they want. It's more kind of doing what I feel is right for that character. And that's how I get the work. And you know, from time to time there'll be an offer that comes in, which is actually even more frightening because you don't go through the process of like, trying it on and sort of getting a sense of like, this, yeah, I really can do this. And so it's even more frightening than ever, but actually also more rewarding. The very last thing I did before the holidays was a really wonderful guest appearance on a show called Hunters, which is coming out sometime February.
Oh, yeah.
That's the Amazon series with the Nazi hunters, I think, right?
Yeah,
with Al Pacino's in it. And,
Al Pacino.
Very cool.
It's going to be very, 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 very cool. David Weil is the showrunner, who also did like some really cool stuff as well. Invasion he's done as well.
Oh yeah, Invasion was great.
It was very interesting working. They offered a role to me, which was the first time I was like, how is this going to happen? And how could this happen? This isn't normal, because it was a big role for the finale, and I shat myself for 3 weeks trying to get into the role, and I was like in a bubble, just like
wow.
And it was really wonderful because it was the first time I'd sort of been able to really just focus on the work and like desperately. And at the end of the third week, it was like, and getting onto set, I never felt so free in a very long time. It was really, really cool. So basically that's how I choose my work. It's like either it's given to me, somebody says, I think you can do this, we'd love you to do this, come along and do it. And gives me the license to be creative in the way that's just me, or something will come along that I get really excited about because I know I can do it, and I know that I can do it in ways that nobody else can. And
what about a part that you feel like you can't do? Have you ever been drawn to something like that, or that not that you can't do it, but
challenge?
This is not me. This is not me at all.
Yeah, actually every role that I do, there's a moment of that. There's like I say, like, I can do this. There's the innate instinct that you're like, oh, I know I can do this.
Right.
Only because you find something that's visceral and connected, and that sort of deludes you enough to sort of think that you can, and then you realize that you're shit scared because you don't think you can, and it's about peeling away that those.
Are people going to believe me as this?
Exactly. Yeah.
I talked to an actor one time. I love it's weird. I love the idea of acting. I don't think I can do it, but I love the idea of it. It's a weird thing when you stop and think about it. Like, it's a weird career, when you really think,
pretend to be someone else.
Yeah, you pretend to be someone else.
Yeah.
But I was talking to an actor one time, very famous actor who's very smart person, very intelligent, who was having to play a very stupid person. And I would think that's a hard thing. And he was also a person that didn't have very good social skills. And it was all these other things in his character that we spend our whole lives working on. We work our whole lives to develop our social skills and our pleasantness around other people and our use of our brains and our intelligence and how we solve problems, how we look at things. And he had to kind of overcome all that stuff and kind of get like, that intelligence can come through in your body movement, in a little subtle thing about how you turn your head and look at someone. You can betray your real self in those little moments.
Yeah.
And he was saying, I have to just stay in this. And I think he called it a really small place. That I have to keep my world really small and think about, think small thoughts, very little, very contained and tiny. Yeah. And I thought that was really interesting. Like you keep your perception of the world in this little tiny space.
That's funny.
Yeah. Yeah. It reminds me of films that I was thinking of. The Safdie brothers movie, Good Times. You've seen that?
I love that film.
Yeah.
They're both of their performances in that were like he's been playing a dumb, dumb. I mean, that's the thing. Ironically, it's like I was like stupid. There are no stupid people.
Right. Yeah.
It's people who don't understand them.
Yes, exactly.
but there was his performance in that, which was because it's a really fine line, like when you're playing something that you would judge otherwise, to be this or that, or
right,
and then having to do that without insulting anybody who might be that, or
right,
without it going into comedy or satire or like a ridiculousness,
Yeah. I wonder if you're talking about Jeff Daniels. I'm just like, are you talking about Jeff?
I know.
What are you thinking about?
No,
He was very, very stupid in that movie.
Well, I could talk about Good Times Forever. I mean, that is,
Yeah.
what a film, Benny Safdie. I think the closing credits, the Iggy Pop song, and then he's just sort of, Benny Safdie's character is sort of adjusting to his new world, which is sort of being in this classroom.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Anyway,
It's crazy. Yeah.
Do you ever see roles like that and you go, oh, I wish I could have done that role? It's like something you think you would have been perfect for that you didn't get a chance to do, or any like envy roles?
Envy roles. Let me see. Envy roles.
Past, present, or future.
No. Actually, I haven't, let me Bond. I could.
Oh yeah, who wouldn't want to do that?
Daniel Craig.
That's a great example.
Yeah.
It is.
I want to do that. I want to be James Bond. Everybody wants to be.
I wanted to be a new Bond. I wanted to be like. What's
your feeling of the Bond? Because I love. I kind of grew up in the '70s, so Roger Moore, Sean Connery. That's sort of my DNA. And Daniel. I don't know if it's so much Daniel Craig. The movies just seem a little bit less Bondy, whatever that term is. Maybe it's the John Barry score is not there, or there's something that just doesn't work. And I guess I know the character has to change somewhat because we are not in 1965 anymore. But I think the next Bond, whoever that is, will go a long way to shift that series into something different, because it feels a bit stale. Maybe that's to me.
I like the Daniel Craig ones.
Yeah, I know. I remember his first one. It was so exciting what he did.
It
was
Mads Mikkelsen.
Yeah.
It's great. I mean, they have the right idea. They're always trying to remain current. They're always trying to remain tapped into what's happening and who the stars are at the time, and like trying to be sort of. But I don't know. Sometimes I feel like, and a lot of people that played Bond seem to feel that it's a bit of a straitjacket in a weird way. It's like, it's ironically, it's kind of like, dare I say it, it's like playing Shakespeare.
Yeah, there's so much expected. It's like playing Batman. People have their own I have my own built-in Batman, and if you deviate from that, I am angry. The internet gets angry. And if you're a new character in Star Wars, you have to live up to what I have in my mind. And James Bond is one of those people. He's like one of those characters, but. That's the thing about the internet, they get the internet gets so angry about these pop cultural fictional characters when in fact all through the history of Batman he's been different in the comic books over and over and over.
I didn't realize so that he's always been like represented as a different.
There's a funny Batman, the Adam West is funny, and then there's the detective comics from the 70s where he was just a detective mostly. And then there's the silly 50s Batman and the dark brooding 80s Batman. So who can the character is open to interpretation like James Bond, It's like I want to see. I mean, people are like, no, James Bond can't be a woman. I'm like, that would be so cool. Certainly could be a woman.
I did hear that they were actually seriously talking to Idris Elba now. I know that that kind of came out while ago when the Sony emails came out, and there was that talk internally about him being Bond, and then everybody said no, that'll never happen. And then now apparently the Broccolis are a little more amicable to having him as Bond, which I think would be amazing.
Yeah,
I mean he is perfect for Bond.
I think he'd kill it. Did you see The Harder They Fall?
Yes,
the James Samuel movie. I mean, he's just like he's amazing. And they're all amazing in that movie, but Idris is like, you're like, oh wow, this guy has reached that sort of like movie idol stage. Right?
He's got the gravitas. And, he's also intimidating. He's one of those actors that in certain roles, he can be scary, and I think that's
He's
a part of
scary.
James Bond. You know what I mean? Like a person you don't want to mess with.
Yeah.
Seems very
You know, Daniel
confident.
Craig has that, and the cold eyes, and that's and when you read the Bond books, he's ruthless. He's a bit of a sociopath.
Yeah.
So if a little bit of that leaks in, you know, and it has to be a good actor that can pull it off, where you still like him, you still want him to succeed,
And super charming and very, relatable in a way. Like
He
he's
put
got. There's a
silencer
lot of
on a
heavy
gun and
lifting.
shoot somebody.
Yeah, and kill people.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's got to be able to do that without,
Yeah.
easy,
Easily. Come on.
with his smile.
Come on. Idris Elba.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it'll be interesting to see what they do. I mean,
Yeah.
let's see.
Another good one.
Yeah. I hope so.
And-
Yeah,
Anything
we still
on-
have the old Sean Connery ones to watch, you know,
I
with the John Barry music and all
I
that.
know.
Yeah,
You can still watch those, Mark.
they're
I
still around.
know. It's a little old fashioned that way. What?
I'd
what
like it if they did a movie where it wasn't, you didn't realize it was Bond until the very end. Do you know what I
Oh,
mean?
that would be funny.
And they released it as something that wasn't actually a Bond movie. And like, oh, this is James Bond. This is,
Right.
you know what I mean? Like, this is how he came. This was his messed up childhood, and how he ended up.
Right.
I can see the marketing department now, like, but we have to say it's Bond or no
Yeah.
one will see it.
but it's an interesting concept, because when Bond
Yeah.
starts with the the whole sort of tells that the scope thing, you realize, okay, it's a Bond movie.
Yeah, and then the big
Yeah.
crazy credits with the song.
It's going to be so it fits into the template, whereas if you're doing all this Bond stuff, but you don't know it's James Bond, all of a sudden it's surprising and fresh and new and different.
It is a
Yeah.
cool idea to do an origin story kind of for Bond. Like,
I think they are. I mean,
further back. It's a good idea.
Yeah, that I think, particularly like that. The sociopath, how he became
The sociopath.
A functional sociopath.
a
Yeah.
functional sociopath.
The
Yeah,
charming,
queen.
functioning, good-looking sociopath. Like so many of them.
which is better? I wonder.
I know, right? We should all be a little more sociopathic.
Well,
Oh.
Well, what's on the
No.
we would
No.
be
I'm only
You'd be-
kidding. I know.
we were remiss to say that, if congratulations on your little baby. That's wonderful.
thank
Yeah,
you.
that's very
know?
exciting.
Yeah,
How's that going?
she's like 8 months now, coming up to 8 months.
Wow.
So 2 hours of sleep a night, maybe tops. Or is she sleeping well?
It was that way for a while. Yeah, for like the first 3 months, it was. Even if she was sleeping, we weren't sleeping.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
We were freaking out about her.
Yeah, you're like, we have a baby.
Yeah, please, let's keep her alive.
Yeah.
It's a weird feeling. You're like, oh, okay, we're home from the hospital or whatever, and we're like, now we're really, this is serious.
Yours now. Take it.
I mean, you guys. Do you guys have kids? Are you?
I have a daughter who's 14.
Yeah,
I do.
so,
I have
yeah.
dogs.
We have a dog.
I have a stepson, but he's 25 now. So,
Oh, okay.
so I didn't have to do the baby thing. But in the back of my mind, I think because it sounds so horrifying, I was like, a baby, could I do it? I don't know. It'd be scary.
I have friends with kids.
It's just as good, and they thank you for it. As well.
Thank you for it. Yeah, they're very grateful.
Yeah.
Well, 8 months in, you've made it through that initial freak out phase, and now you're sort of
like
gliding right into one. I think that's
like,
going to happen.
Yeah.
Does it ever happen?
Yeah, well, yeah. Does it ever happen?
Does it ever happen, really?
How does
Well, she's 14, so of course I'm going to worry about her for the rest of my life, and that's just reality. It's just a different. You're just at this different, DEFCON level. You're up one more, but you're getting sleeping through. She can go to school on her own. We don't worry about the the minute to minute stuff that will go away. Now you're not there yet, but
Yeah.
it goes fast.
It gets more and more terrifying, actually.
Yeah. This is what like. Does it get better? Does it really?
Does it really get better?
I certainly hope so.
Do we just worry forever now for the rest of our
No,
lives?
I'll worry forever,
Like,
but
this is
it's
a state of being, right? This is like,
Exactly.
it's what it is. It's what it is. But
Mark
it's all,
invoking DEFCON levels and stuff.
yeah.
Code red.
Code.
Uh,
red.
Oh my god.
wow.
I
Well-
will say it's made anxiety something that I used to become like overwhelmed by and be like, oh, I can't handle this. to something that I have to sort of now deal with in a real way, which has kind of been an interesting sort of transformation, which I think like in other ways. So I'm grateful for, but yeah, it's been great.
Good.
That's awesome. That's
and
really
what's on the professionally, anything on the horizon that you can talk about other than the pie, or is it just sort of mom's the word now?
No. I mean, like, well, we were supposed to talking about James Bond origin stories. I was doing the series, the Alex Rider TV series.
Yeah,
which, like,
it's really fun.
It's fun. Yeah, it's
really fun.
It's a goodie. Which we were supposed to be shooting. Now, actually, we're supposed to be January 29th. We're supposed to be in Bristol shooting the 3rd season of that, but that's been postponed.
Oh no.
For reasons that I am not quite sure of, but it's been delayed until next year. So this whole period is something up, which is like the first time that's happened for a couple of years, which is a little frightening, but in a way it's great because I have the space to do the writing and sort of
yes,
oh yeah, that's true.
Right.
And,
Babies and writing.
babies and writing.
They don't really mix, but there they are.
Yeah, they don't.
They do not.
But she inspires.
Exactly. It's a whole different level. That's right.
It's wonderful. Well, it's always great to chat with you, and we'd love to have you on again, even during this, this 1 year or whatever, since you're not doing Alex Rider, which is on IMDb TV, correct?
Which is on IMDb TV. Yeah.
Okay. Which is a really fun series, and it's 2 seasons in, available now. And I've watched the first 3 or 4 episodes. I plan on watching the rest of the series. So
I've watched the first season.
Oh, cool.
Keep going.
I need to catch up.
You keep going. I'd be intrigued to know what you guys think about it. It's let me know. I can take those notes into season 3. Sort of like
Take those notes. Oh, we'll give you some notes. Okay.
Yeah, not me. Not me.
Not me. Not on me. On the show.
Just don't ever give me notes.
So when they make you Bond, you will come back and talk to us about that. Oh, we're gonna get a little.
Well, yeah. Hold on.
Oh my God!
We have.
Oh, look at that! She came flying in.
Hi, sweetie.
Oh my God! She's like, what the hell am I looking at?
Yeah. Do you see what
Absolutely
see all the
adorable.
colors. Look at the colors.
Hi.
Oh,
She's soaking that all in. She's going to be a whiz very soon.
Yeah.
I know. Oh, okay.
These people are weird. Take me away.
Oh, there's colors and stripes. That was so cute.
gorgeous.
Oh, a little sneak appearance.
Wow.
Proud.
Cameo.
First public appearance, by the way. Oh,
Yeah.
First public appearance. She's going to be an actress, I can tell. He's like,
Maybe
please
she'll
no.
be the first
she
female Bond.
She's along to the Beatles in the morning. We put on music in the morning when we're having like thing, and she just starts screaming, which I think is a version of singing.
Yeah.
So I Ella Fitzgerald kind of like rubs it.
Nice.
She kind of like starts singing around to me. There's like, I don't know. I'm hopeful.
Maybe.
Might be a
He's
singer in the
developing that
family.
voice.
Yeah, I know.
Thank you so much for talking with us today. It was super fun. I can't wait to see what you're going to do next.
Yeah.
Keep an eye on you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Really,
it was fun. And stay around for a second while we do the closing. So I want to talk to you for a sec before you sign off. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to our YouTube channel and our podcast. We always love that. Thanks for all the comments. It's been great. It's been going gangbusters for us, so we love it. So don't forget to do that.
Yeah.
Don't forget.
Yeah.
And thanks so much for joining us. Maybe next time we can all do it in person again and back together.
your lips to God's ears. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, seriously. All
Okay.
right.
Soon.
Take care, everybody.
All right.
Take care. Bye.